such a pleasure to be here, and I'm so excited to have the opportunity to discuss Dr. Du Bois under these extraordinary circumstances and wonderful readings. And so, Dr. Evans and everyone else, I want to thank you for putting this together. It was a pleasure to read the readings and to hear the voices come alive from the past. And the fundamental questions that were asked in these readings were, what are the opportunities that are available for our people in this time? To what extent are we taking advantage of those opportunities? What are we doing when we do go to college? And what is the status of the way that we are educating our children? And there were some very insightful visions of the future. One gentleman said that I predict that we're going to go through very difficult times politically where we're marginalized and set to the side, and then there's going to be an economic expansion, and we're going to use that economic expansion to gain more political power. And as we just know, Monday we just re-elected a black man for president for the second time in the United States. I think that it's important also to realize that as Dr. Du Bois continued to move forward from this time of 1910, he became increasingly disillusioned with the United States. He both socially, in terms of economically, his thinking was that there's a problem with the capitalistic structure in thinking about opportunity. And also disillusioned with, where we just left off, with the impact of white supremacy on our people. And so he became increasingly connected with African. What does it mean to be African? And so I would like to think about moving us forward today and beg the question, there has been extraordinary expansion in the establishment of a black working class, somewhat of a black middle class, college opportunity. And from the strip that was spoken about just a few minutes ago, we still have a significant and large section of our people who are disengaged, marginalized, and not productively, healthily engaging with each other. There's a psychological problem. I want to address that now, because I think that going forward, while we have expanded, we still have significant problems. If you go to the temples in Egypt, ancient Kemet, on the top of the temple, you would see the words, "Know thyself." And so we're talking about opportunity in 1910, 1901, in the midst of one of the greatest acts of treachery and terrorism that slavery beheld onto our people. There was physical terrorism, but also psychological terrorism. The impact and separation that we experienced being removed from Africa and not having Africa as a context for understanding ourselves and shaping our identity was and has continued to be a paramount problem in our development and moving forward as a people. From approximately 1850 to the 1890s, the minstrel shows were one of the most popular forms of entertainment. The way we go to the movies today, people went to the minstrel shows. And the cruelty of taking a people and subjecting them to what we were subjected to, and then making the #1 form of entertainment, making a mockery of what comes out of that. Sometimes we have to ask ourselves, those of us who do not align ourselves with the demeanor, style of dress, style of talk, or the opportunities of the dominant culture, it's a perfectly reasonable response. Particularly when those of us who have gained privilege or power or economic status have done that by mimicking the norms, the values, and the ways of the European dominant culture. The same dominant culture that is making a mockery and disrespecting our people. Even till today, when I go into schools, I'm always in schools working with young black children. And what I find is that young black children want to learn. Young black males, when I walk into the room, they're, "Dr. Irving, come here." They're pulling me. They're hungry to learn. But there's a problem among our people and many of our teachers that we fundamentally do not love Africa. And we fundamentally do not love what it means to be African.
All right.
Say it.
And so when we have a pedagogical approach that is grounded and reflected in European values, which is grounded and reflected in white supremacy, it creates a continuation of the psychological turmoil that has been heaped upon our people. We perpetuated ourselves. So some of the great advancements that have happened since these writings has been the influence of African-centered psychology with brilliant scholars like Dr. W.E.B. and Asa G. Hilliard and so many others. So we do have a psychological paradigm that we can tie into that would be extremely useful, beneficial, and helpful for restoring the mental health of our people. I think another important point to bring up is in looking at opportunity today. When I first came to Georgia in 2002, I was amazed by the Hope Scholarship, and I'd ask myself, wow, this seems like an extraordinary opportunity. All you have to do is maintain to be average and you can get financial support to go to college. Why aren't more of our people taking advantage of this? Well, if you've been terrorized, marginalized, disrespected, kicked to the curb for 9, 10 years in the public school system, if your teachers have only loved who you can be, not who you are, if they've never taken time to figure out what's important to you and connect with that, and at the end of those 9 or 10 years, you end up with someone who's a C or a D or even a failing student, this opportunity of college is just not there. But we also have to be critical of the economic structure that we're currently in. College does not equal the same rewards that even equaled 10 years ago. When you look at China, when you look at India, when you look at Brazil, and you contextualize those under the economic system that we're in, we're going to have to utilize or connect or find a way to tap into what I would just call African genius. Because we are not going to be able to compete with China. I'm talking about the United States. We're not going to even be able to compete with India, nor will we be able to compete with Brazil. And so the corrupt system of capitalism is already failing the general population of the United States. And so what did they say? When America catches the cold, we get the flu. Okay. So what I'm saying is this, is that as we work with these students in the college, we have to be realistic about the future. We have to find ways to connect with our children, to love who they are, and to reconnect our folks with what it means to be African, to love what it means to be African, and to be firmly grounded in that. Thank you.